pretty odd question mark in 2008, so 3 years after touring on a Fever You Can't Sweat Out, Panic at the Disco went into their recording studio and made a very, what a move. You want to talk about musical transitions between albums? Like, there's only one other band I can think of that does this, and ironically enough, they're from Las Vegas or Nevada too. The Killers, just on a side note, the Killers made Hot Fuss, and then they went on to do Sam's Town. That's a crazy transition. If those you know there know about that, good for you. But anyways, from a Fever You Can't Sweat Out to Pretty Odd in 2008. My God, this was. Am I still going first? Do you want me to go second, or
no,
you guys care at all? I'll go for it. Okay,
first it up.
All right, cool. Yeah. So basically, man, you want to talk about a transitional album in a career that would isolate fans of that original album. Even I'll get to that in a second, but I'll get to my cousin in a second who loves Panic at the Disco. It's funny. I'll just say it now. I remember asking her at one point. She said, "Hey, I just saw Panic at the Disco. What do you? I heard you like them." She said that the first album was great. The next 3 albums sucked. Death of Betcher was okay, and I went on from there. I was like, "Oh shit, okay, cool." So that's her interpretation of all that. But yeah, she's more in the pop punk stuff personally. No, but Pretty Odd, man. It's almost like they took, and I'm not just saying this because it sounds like they made like a Beatles album or a Kinks album from like 1968 or like even like the Who or no, remember the Who, but like it's almost like they took Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band from the Beatles, their Satanic Majesty's Request by the Rolling Stones, the Village Preservation Society by the Kinks, and the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds and Smile Sessions, and mashed it all up and made this. That's the best way I can describe this album. For those of you who don't know anything about the albums I just listed by the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, and the Beach Boys, this was pretty much like that to a T. Like they went gung-ho crazy with weird titles, strange concepts, like songs like 9 in the Afternoon, That Green Gentleman, Things Have Changed, Northern Downpour, Folkin' Around, When the Day Met the Night. This is a very, very strange album. Needless to say, Mad as Rabbit's another one. I mean, there's a lot of, you want to talk about a deep cut album. This has got some really deep cuts on it, truthfully. But no, but needless to say, as I just said, it feels like they took Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. It feels like they took their Satanic Majesty's Request by the Rolling Stones. It feels like they took the Village Preservation Society by the Kinks and the Beach Boys psychedelic era Pet Sound stuff, and basically made an album like that. If that's hitting the nail on the head there, because like with songs like 9 in the Afternoon, That Green Gentleman, the lyrical and sound change to this band was so 180. It was just a huge 180, like from the sound, like incorporating the piano instead of a keyboard, incorporating tinny, maybe not tinny, but just like lighter tone guitar sounds, like a little more like on That Green Gentleman. It's like the harmonies in there too. There is so much on this record that I didn't realize how much I enjoyed it, but obviously the big hit single was 9 in the Afternoon, which is just still played a lot, not maybe on radio, but just it's got streaming numbers that are decent on Spotify. But man, like there's this might be the most inconsistent album though, but all of the songs sound. I did a jumbled my words there. Sorry about that. All the songs sound very much of the late 60s, and that's something I've grown up with more than Panic at the Disco. As a band, I've grown up with that sound a lot more. Just within my family, within my circle of like the Beatles, the Kinks, the Stones, some of the Who, Beach Boys. I was raised on that. Even Chuck Berry, Johnny B. Good and all that. But this is definitely even Bob Dylan to extend it, like with Folkin' Around or Northern Downpour. Man, this is just a crazy album to get into, and it was a complete departure from that pop punk sound completely. Like I feel like at the time, most people were like, this is Panic at the Disco. No, this is Panic at the Disco. You know, I feel like they're like arguing amongst themselves, like what is the best album at the time. And I mean, we got, and we'll move on from there. But Kyle, you know, that's what I have to say about the Pretty Odd. What's your take for Pretty Odd? I mean, it is pretty odd. So
Yeah, my thoughts on this one have, shifted many ways over the years. When this came out, I was in the camp that was like, what the hell is this? This is not what I want. At the time, this is not the style of music I listened to at all. Since then, I came to appreciate it way more over the years. You hit the nail on the head with specifically the Beatles' influence on this. I mean, pretty direct comparison between this and Sgt. Pepper's, that right down to the whole 9 in the afternoon music video, essentially just being them in the Sgt. Pepper's outfits. Whatever. That's a great song. 9 in the Afternoon is great. Northern Downpour is a fantastic song. Very well written ballad there. I love that song. Yeah. Poking Around is good. There's a couple, gems on here. Overall, it's got some great songs. It has some filler songs on it too. For a while, maybe like 8 years ago or so, this did right up there as my favorite Panic album for a while. Throughout the years, and re-listening, I'm like, it doesn't hold up as well as I wanted. It's an album I have to be kind of in the mood to listen to. Conceptually, I think it kind of falls apart and overstays its welcome a bit. It does the job thematically of sounding cohesive, but I kind of get a little sick of it toward the end there in one listen. This is an album I'll go back. I usually nowadays cherry pick some songs to listen to from it. So, I respect the change in style here. I do vividly remember the time where this came out and everyone just decided we hate Panic at the Disco now because this is not what we wanted. I was never that against it. I didn't think it ruined the band for me. But it was definitely an interesting place for them to go following A Fever You Can't Sweat Out. Entirely different sounds. I do much prefer the inclusion of piano over, piano and like more orchestral elements over the electronic aspects that were in A Fever You Can't Sweat Out, especially the 2005 sounding electronic elements that were in that one. So yes. Some welcome changes overall, hit or miss.
Mike, you love the Beatles, right?
Oh yeah. Encountering this album, it was kind of a surprise. You hear a lot of different elements of music from the 60s and maybe even like an early 70s funky kind of feel to it at times. And you really appreciate the album's honor to that style of music. One thing does come kind of certain during this album is the songwriting isn't the best. It definitely shows off its knowledge of different applications of music from this time, almost in an attempt to convince you that everybody in this band, as well as Brandon Urie, is well versed in understanding musical theory and like the history of music. And a lot of it feels like a tribute to that era without really truly grasping a truly like super interesting song outside of like 9 in the Afternoon I've heard it before. It's not one of my favorite songs, but it's I like that some of the Brandon Urie overdoing his vocals, overdoing his style were kind of a little more subdued, which gives it plus numbers. And it does do a lot of different things, but once again, I think where it just isn't able to really hit a home run is it's like songwriting just never really resonated with me. That really stuck with me. I just enjoyed the sounds that they were presenting. I enjoyed the interpretation of like an old sound and a modern kind of execution, like with a blend of like a modern flair. It was kind of cool to see them pull that off and actually pull that off pretty well. So yeah, I appreciated it for that, and it was like a welcoming, less crazy ADD-esque type of album as the previous album had done. So
All right, well, you that those are our takes for the album. Now I'm gonna say that Mike has. We're good, right? I can give my guesses, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm gonna say that Kyle has this at number 4, and I would say Mike has it at number 5. Kyle.
I had on here, I put JT having it at number 4 and Mike having this at number 2.
And
I
Mike?
had you guys both say this was your number 2, but after listening to you talk about it, I feel like I would have re-guessed that. It's kind of interesting. I guessed it ahead of time, and then hearing you talk about it now, I don't feel so confident in thinking this is your number 2 album. So, unfortunately, I did say you both said it was your number 2.
All righty. Well, in reality, Mike is pretty close, actually. I think you Kyle, you said mine was number 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We believe it or not, you both. I have to meet you both in the middle. Mine is at number 3 for Panic at the Disco. Pretty Odd is my number 3 album by them, mainly because of the experimentation on it. But that's just me. Yeah. And Kyle, where's yours at?
This one, JT, again, hitting the nail on the head with your guess. That's 3 in a row for you.
Man,
this is my number 4. This is my number 4. Over time, it's just kind of gone up and down in my rankings, and it's just settled directly in the middle. It's a good album. Nothing wrong with being number 4. It's a good album. I agree with Mike on some of the things that he just said in his discussion about it, where he's talking about how aspects of the songwriting aren't necessarily there all the time, but the sounds are kind of nice. Song for song on here. So exactly in the middle. 3 for 3, JT. Let's see if you can keep it going. Mike, what do you got?
Mike, what do you got?
For me, this was number 3 for me. In a catalog full of music that goes into areas I don't want it to go in, it was refreshing to listen to an album that went into an area that I wanted it to go in, but not necessarily musically memorable in that manner. So like I could listen to this album as I'm driving and not remember a single song, but enjoy the elements of that it brings, and that it does some kind of funky little things and whatever that I remind me of music from the past, and it leaves me with a pleasant feeling like, it's nice to have somebody reuse like some of the different techniques that you use in music to kind of revive a sound. Will I remember them? Probably not, but I was enjoying them at a drive or wherever. So yeah, it was hard to place it because not a lot of this music I really like. So, but this one I enjoyed for its simple aesthetic. So yeah, number 3 for me.